Hello, this short webinar is titled Separation of Church and State, Where the Phrase Comes From, and this is a short look, a quick facts version of looking at this topic. The Danbury Baptist Association wrote a letter to President Thomas Jefferson after his inauguration in 1801. In that letter, they expressed concern that the federal government might at some point strive to set up a national denomination or might take freedom of worship away. It was in response to this letter from the Danbury Baptist Association that Thomas Jefferson wrote back on January 1st, 1802. And this is what he said: "Believing with you that religion is a matter which lies solely between man and his God, that he owes account to none other for his faith or his worship, that the legislative powers of government reach actions only and not opinions, I contemplate with sovereign reverence that act of the whole American people which declared that their legislature should make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, thus building a wall of separation between church and state." So what Jefferson was saying was this: very simply, the wall that Jefferson was writing about was not to limit religious activities in public. Rather, it was to limit the power of the federal government to prohibit or to interfere with those expressions. This is reinforced by many of other writings of Thomas Jefferson. A representative sample comes from the Kentucky Resolutions of 1798, where he said this: "No power over the freedom of religion is delegated to the United States federal government by the Constitution." In other words, individual states and local communities have total freedom to express religious thoughts and sentiments publicly as they see fit. Moreover, even officials serving in the federal government could express those thoughts. What he was saying in his letter, and was reinforced by the First Amendment, is this: that the federal government was completely restrained from passing laws that forced a mode of worship or a national denomination onto people. So even though Jefferson's letter is actually consistent with the First Amendment, the words separation of church and state are not in the First Amendment, and so we have to remember that this was a letter of correspondence to some constituents, that this letter is not a founding document of the United States, that Jefferson was not even a part of the Constitutional Convention as he was actually out of the country at the time. The phrase separation of church and state is not in any of the founding documents, and none of the 90 founding fathers in the First Amendment discussion used the phrase. What's concerning about all this is that there is no other instance in American history where words spoken by an individual have become the law of the land. This case is all the more concerning as the Supreme Court intentionally twisted Thomas Jefferson's remarks into meaning the opposite of what he was actually saying, and now this political philosophy carries more weight in judicial circles than does the writing of any other founding father or the Constitution itself. That's the conclusion of this quick fact study on where the phrase comes from. I would really invite you to take a look at part 3 that takes a more comprehensive look at this letter and the ramifications of both the history of the letter, the concept that was originally framed, and some additional thoughts on Jefferson's letter. Thank you for listening.